All right, here we're going to give you the Okameda experience on how to install our Polaris Xpedition big brake kit. So this machine already has the kit installed, so we're not going to actually be installing the kit. We're just going to give you some pointers on how to do it. So this is what's going to come in the kit right here for one side of the machine. Obviously, you're only going to get one master cylinder, but you're going to get double the amount of everything else here. So some brackets, calipers, rotors. So now let's go over real quick how the kit works. So how our kit works is it's going to take your original front Xpedition caliper and it's going to move it to the rear. You're going to use your original rear rotor off of your machine. We're going to give you a new bracket like this one. This is the bracket that mounted your caliper on the front of your machine. The same bracket, we just modify it. So the modified bracket that we give you, that's the same as the one that was on your machine, is going to mount your original front caliper on the rear. Okay, then you're going to use a 2-piece Pro R rotor like this. This is going to go on the front. This rotor is the same dimension now as the rotor that's on the rear of your machine. That rotor that's on the rear is just a cheaper version. It's a cast iron 1-piece. So you can use these 2-piece rotors on the rear of your Xpedition if you like to. Okay, then we make a new bracket. So this aluminum bracket right here is what's going to mount your 3-piston Pro R caliper on the front. That's this bracket right here. This is your Pro R 3-piston caliper. This big monster right here. So they're marked D and P, driver's side, passenger side. The only reason they're marked is the bleeder has to be on the top like that. So, okay. Then you got a new master cylinder. So this is the Pro R master cylinder. Pro R master cylinder mounts differently than an Xpedition master cylinder, so we make this bracket that will allow you to just bolt it right in, and then it has a proportioning valve built into it. So you're going to get this as a kit. It'll basically look just like this, and it'll bolt right in. Okay, so let's go over real quick the parts that you're going to use and the parts that you aren't going to use, just to clarify. So you're going to use your original front caliper, it's going to go on the rear. You're going to use your original rotor off of the rear. You're not going to use the caliper off the rear of your machine. You're not going to use the bracket that was holding the caliper on the front of your machine. You're going to use the new one that we give you. You're not going to use your front rotor off of your machine, and you're not going to use the master cylinder off of your machine. Okay, so now let's go over some pointers on how to install the kit. Now we're going to go over installing the brakes on the front of the Xpedition. So we already have this kit partially installed on here just to save time on the video. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to remove your stock brakes. So remove the stock caliper, remove the stock rotor. You're going to take the brake line off the caliper because that caliper is going to go to the rear. Then you're going to grab your new rotor, take the Pro R rotor, slide it on, put a couple lug nuts on it. That'll just help keep the rotor on square. Then you're going to take your new bracket. This is the aluminum bracket. There is no left and right. These are universal. Take the bolts out, put Loctite on those, red Loctite on those bolts. This bracket is going to slide in just like this. So it's going to go right down in there like that. You're going to take and put the bolts in from the inside. You're going to torque those to the factory spec. And we'll have that torque on our website for you. Now you're going to take your new Pro R caliper. You're going to pop these plastic clips out of here. And then you're going to take the brake pads out. So you just push on this. Pad's going to pop loose. You're going to take that pad out. Pop the pad out like that. Now if you watch, this is the bracket and this is the caliper. So these are going to slide apart. These rubber boots won't tear. You're just going to pop it apart. If the boots come off like that, you're going to pull them off here. Take these boots and just push on them and kind of spin them and pop them back over those little nipples like that. Okay. Now you're going to set this aside for a minute. This is the bracket that you just took off. It's got these stainless clips in here like this. Just pop these clips out. So little wear clips for the pads. Now in your bracket, while it's on the machine, you're just going to snap these clips in there just like that. So these clips will snap in there like that. So now you're going to have this bracket on the machine like this with those brackets and those clips installed. Now you're going to take the brake pad and just install the brake pad in there. So the brake pad will literally just go up in there, put the inner one in, the outer one in, have it in like that. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take the caliper, you're going to kind of squeeze these boots together with your finger, and this is going to go down over this assembly here. You can kind of wiggle this boot in there, wiggle them in there like that. You can kind of see down in there, get them over those little nipples like that. Okay, once you've got them in there, now we're going to show you how to install the slider pins in there. Okay, so now we're going to go on to installing the slider pins. So these are these two pins that are in that stock bracket that you took off. These have a 6mm Allen in the end, so get a 6mm Allen socket, break those loose. They can be kind of tight. You're going to spin both those pins out and they're going to look like this. So you'll have two of them just like that. So once those are removed, then you're going to come over here to your bracket. These just kind of centered around, it'll push right in. If it doesn't go right in, it's probably because the pin is hitting on the boot right here. So don't force it because you don't want to tear your boot. So once it slides in like that, I'm going to take this lower one. This thing will go in, slide in like that. And then you're going to take these, tighten them down until they bottom out. You're going to torque those to the factory spec, which we'll also have on our site. Then all that's left is you're going to hook your brake line up. So your brake line is going to use all the hardware that came off of the stock caliper. So basically the banjo bolt and the washer is going to bolt right back on, torque all that back down, and that'll pretty much be it for the front brakes. Now we're going to move on to installing the master cylinder in the Xpedition. So you're going to get the master cylinder as a complete assembly just like this. So the first thing that we recommend doing is removing the front shock. Not 100% necessary, but definitely makes it a lot easier to get in to access everything around the master cylinder. There's a dust shield right here. You can take these two bolts off, take the dust shield off. So once you have all that done, then what we're going to do is remove the master cylinder. You're going to take these two banjo bolts that are holding the brake lines on the inboard side like that, take those lines off. You're going to take the pin out of the brake pedal, take these two bolts out of the firewall, master cylinder is going to slide out. Once you get that master cylinder out, what we need to do is we need to change this activator rod and take the one out of the Xpedition. So the Xpedition and the Pro R have the same design rod, they're just different lengths. So what we're going to do is you're going to pop this boot off. There's a circlip down inside. Pull that circlip out, this rod's going to slide out. You're going to do the same thing on the Xpedition one. Take that rod, insert it into the Pro R one, put the clip back in, put the boot on. It's definitely easier to do this before you install it in the machine, and it actually works really well if you put it in a vise vertically like this. So once you've got all that done, then what we're going to do is we're going to install the master cylinder. So you're going to slide it up in there, you're going to put these bolts in, tighten these bolts down, put the pin back in the brake pedal. Once you've got all that done, then we're going to move on to the brake lines. So the way the brake lines work is, how this was hooked up originally was your double stacked line with the brake pressure switch, which is your front brakes, was originally bolted in this position, and then your single banjo bolt with your single brake line was bolted in this one. They're going to be swapped now. So the double stacked line with the brake pressure switch is going to go in this position, and then the banjo bolt, only the bolt that came out of this position is going to bolt this banjo down where this red dot is right here. This fitting, this is two pieces on the end, so once you tighten this bolt down, then you have to tighten this nut. So you're going to have this bolted here with the single banjo bolt that came from here. The double stacked line is going to be bolted here with the brake pressure switch, and then the single line that's going down the tunnel that's not hooked up yet as your rear brakes is going to hook up right here where the blue dots are. So basically what's happening here is, this is your rear brake line where this red dot is going through the proportioning valve. So your rear brake going through the proportioning valve, coming out here, going to the rear brakes. So once you have all that installed, what we recommend doing is turning your proportioning valve all the way in for bleeding the brakes. And then once you've bled the brakes, then turn the proportioning valve all the way out for starting to set the brakes up on the machine. So that should pretty much do it for the master cylinder. Now we're going to move on to setting up the rear brake. Now we're going to go over installing the brakes on the rear of the Xpedition and your final step. So this machine already has the brakes installed on the rear. So this is your original front caliper, brake pads, the original rotor off the rear of your machine, and that new bracket that we supplied you with. So what you're going to need to do first is go ahead and remove your original rear brake. So you're going to take the original rear caliper, the brake pads, and the bracket. You can take that off, set it to the side. We're not going to use that anymore. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go onto this bracket that we talked about earlier. This is the same bracket that mounted your front calipers on the front. We just give you a new one. We machine it a little bit differently so that this will now mount your front caliper on the rear. These brackets are universal. There are no left and right, so it works on either side. So what we're going to do first is you're going to take your original front caliper and brake pads, and you're going to need to assemble them over this bracket just as if they came off the front. So you're going to install the caliper on here, the brake pads on here, have everything ready before you slide it down over. You'll notice there's two washers that are zip tied to this bracket. I don't know if you can see, but there's a little bevel on the inside of that washer. These washers are for the original bolts that held the caliper on the rear. You're going to take these washers and slide them on the bolt with that bevel side up. Those washers are important that they're installed. If they're not installed, the bolts will be too long and they'll come through and push on the brake pads. So once you have this bracket assembled with everything on it, you have those washers on the bolts with the bevel side up. You're going to put red Loctite on those bolts. This whole assembly is going to slide down over. You're going to install those bolts from the inside with the red Loctite and torque those to the factory spec, which we will also have on our website. Then the brake line is going to be your last thing. It'll all bolt right back on just as normal. You're going to use the original banjo bolt, washer, everything. Then you're going to be pretty much done with installing the brakes. And now we're going to move on to bleeding the brakes.